everyone. Welcome to the 6th Singapore ICSSH. And I'm Nicole from Nishikishu University in Japan. And I am very honored to be here today to give the keynote speech. Things have been a little bit crazy recently, haven't they? Here in Japan, things are starting to look a little better, but still university now is online. So this means a lot of extra work, but I hope that you and your family are all safe, and I'd like to thank you for joining us here today. My major is in applied linguistics, and I'm interested in foreign language acquisition, plurilingualism, language, and communication. So the theme of today's keynote speech is going to be about language and communication. During these difficult times, we have been communicating online much more than dealing with communication face to face. Just how different is this? Communicating in different modes. Next, let's look at communication in the digital world. But before we do this, let's look at offline. So offline would include things like face-to-face conversations, over coffee, over lunch, teaching in a classroom, interacting with students, writing letters, and so on. This is an area that during the COVID-19 we have seen a complete disappearance of because of lockdown. On the other hand, let's look at online in the digital world. Welcome to the always-on world. Phil Agree said in 2001. Since there is no class, per se, there's always class, said an educator in 2003. If you have your phone with you, you're effectively logged on. Leonard Lowe, 2007. We never switch off. And unsurprisingly, our communications technologies have begun to overwhelm us. Although many of the terms we hear, information overload, information fatigue syndrome, news fatigue, infomania, information obesity, and even infobesity, focus on the informational aspects of the problem. It's arguably more of a communication overload. There are countless communication channels through which both informational and social messages can reach us. We're drowning in overlapping RSS feeds, tweets, Facebook updates, instant messages, text messages, and emails. Yet, we keep adding more channels. In the center, you can see various icons. Just how many of these do you participate in? More and more, technology functions as a wireless yoke to the workplace, from which we never entirely disconnect. Meanwhile, constant connectivity to friends and family, while reassuring, undermines our independence and never leaves us alone with our own thoughts. Work and leisure blur together. We're available 24/7 for one or other or both. Every aspect of language is extremely complex, Yet very young children, before the age of 5, already know most of the intricate system we have been calling the grammar of a language. Before they can add 2 plus 2, children are conjoining sentences, asking questions, selecting appropriate pronouns, negating sentences, forming relative causes, and using the syntax, phonological, and morphological, and semantic rules of the grammar. A normal human being can go through life without learning to read or write. Millions of people in the world today prove it. These same millions all speak and understand and can discuss complex and abstract ideas as well as literate speakers can. Therefore, learning a language and learning how to read and write are somehow different. Similarly, millions of humans grow to maturity and never learn algebra or chemistry. They must be taught these skills or systems, but they do not have to be taught to walk or to talk. Even if you remember your early years, you will not remember anyone telling you to form a sentence by adding a verb phrase to a noun phrase, or to add s or z to form plurals. Children then seem to act like efficient linguists equipped with a perfect theory of language, who use this theory to construct the grammar of the language they hear. In addition to acquiring the complex rules of the grammar, that is, linguistic competence, children must also learn the complex rules of the appropriate social use of language, what certain scholars have called the communicative competence. These rules include, for example, the greetings that are to be used, the taboo words, the polite forms of address, the various styles that are appropriate to different situations, and so on. As educators, what skills do we want our students to have? We want them to be knowledgeable in their field. We want them to be researchers. We want them to be leaders. I believe that a good leader is also a good communicator. Let's look at the attributes of a leader. They're a good communicator. They're intelligent. They're honest. They're creative. They're confident. They're driven. They're courageous, amongst many other attributes. So a great communicator will be someone who spends a lot of time developing these skills. They will have empathy, energy, effort, and willpower. And it is these attributes that we as educators need to cultivate. However, are we losing, or do we risk losing our communication skills in a digital world? Studies have shown that as digital consumption increases, the level of empathy, especially among young people, decreases. So are we losing our communication skills? On the one hand, we are communicating non-stop, 24/7. But are we communicating effectively? Let's reflect again on the attributes of a great communicator. Intelligence, honesty, creative, confident, driven, courageous, make an effort, have willpower, have energy, have clarity, have empathy. So if someone has energy, this means that I believe that you believe me. if someone has clarity, this will take away any misunderstandings. And if someone has empathy, it means they will feel that they get each other. I think empathy is one of the things that we are missing most in our lives now. There are 4 levels to empathy. 1, see. 2, understand. 3, appreciate. And 4, communicate. Number 1 is to see someone's world. So often we don't understand how we see someone else's world. And to clarify this, let me share one of my most favorite quotes of all time from To Kill a Mockingbird. So you will never understand how someone feels until you climb inside of his skin and walk around in it. And this also links to number 2, to understand someone's feeling. Or to understand. And Einstein has a great quote, "Any fool can know. The point is to understand." Number 3 means to appreciate. And this means to appreciate someone as a human being without judgment. Don't judge my choices without understanding my reasons is always a good rule of thumb. And finally, communicate. This is to communicate understanding, to communicate that you see, you understand, you appreciate the other person. The more time we are spent in the digital world means the less time we are spending communicating in our analog spaces. Part 2 of Are We Losing Our Communication Skills? Patience is a virtue. Patience is not the ability to wait, but how you act while you're waiting. The younger generation are becoming more and more impatient. A recent study showed that 20 years ago, the concentration span was about 20 minutes, which is about the time of this keynote speech. But now, this has fallen down to as low as 3.5 minutes. Time is getting shorter and quicker, but more and more information is being jammed into it. I remember as a child, 6 weeks of summer holidays was like an eternity. But nowadays, everything is a quick fix, on demand, instant gratification. We need to teach our students patience by not offering easy solutions, quick fixes, but slow and deliberate actions and interactions face to face, while reading each other's body language and actually taking the time to listen to each other and attempt to understand, rather than multitasking, scanning, quick fixing, and instant gratification. And now we come to part 3 of Are We Losing Our Communication Skills? One study in 2007 by Zelds, Sward, and Lockheim suggests that knowledge workers get as little as 3 minutes at a time uninterrupted, with switching costs meaning that time is constantly lost as we shift back and forth between different tasks, often focusing on immediate, minor issues and leaving ourselves little time for extended reflection on important tasks. When you think about it, our reactions are the same as our ancestors. A snap of a twig in an ancient forest would immediately attract our attention. In the 21st century, this has been replaced by ringtones, buzzers, and beeps. We will immediately react to these sounds, and our concentration will be broken, and we find our hands reaching for our phones or devices. So in conclusion, what should we be doing? I believe that number one, we should cultivate communication skills in the analog world. 2, we should increase levels of empathy. And how should we be doing this? We should be doing this by enhancing our analog skills, extending patience thresholds, decreasing the urge to connect to the digital world. You cannot not communicate. You are communicating through what you wear, what you eat, what you say. Everything about you and your appearance is communicating to others. You cannot say what you mean. Our brains are not computers. We don't have linear thought processes, so whatever comes out is not exactly what you mean. And everyone has their own interpretation of what's been said, of what I've said today, in different filters, which extend to different memories. You have the power of words. You make people feel how you want them to feel. If you praise someone, they feel happy. If you criticize them, they get sad. This is cause and effect. Be engaged. Be there for your students. Be there for your children. Be interested. Be interested in what someone is saying, not be interesting. Use body language. Even if you are communicating with someone through FaceTime, body language will be lost. We need to realize the risks and challenges of new technology and toys. And balance. Are you up for the challenge? This is a call for action and to make sure our students don't just cruise down the digital highway at the expense of communication skills. And in conclusion, to quote Brett Morrison, of all the life skills available to us, communication is perhaps the most empowering. Thank you for your attention.